Hello, this is AnlineOffline. Welcome back to another casual's quick guide to Call of Duty Mobile. For today's video, we'll be covering the LAPA. Introduced in mobile's 3rd anniversary, the LAPA is an automatic SMG from Cold War, and is one of 3 weapons from Brazil to appear in the COD franchise. During the Cold War, Latin America was subject to revolutions and coups by both socialists and conservatives. And Brazil was no different. In 1964, the CIA backed a right-wing military coup that overthrew the democratically elected leftist president João Goulart and repressed any perceived threat of communism. Despite having American support, the regime still sought to produce domestic small arms. LAPA was a company founded by Nelmo Suzano, with prototypes that included a 5.56 bullpup rifle and a 9mm blowback SMG. The rifle was dismissed and didn't have a realistic chance of competing against MBEL, a quasi-NGO formed under the Ministry of Defense. Brazil would continue to adopt MBEL's FAL derivatives after civilian elections returned, and they later designed the IA-2. As for the LAPA SMG, very few were made, and they couldn't secure any buyers as Taurus was already licensed to produce Beretta pistols and SMGs. Thus the company closed, and the LAPA is only remembered in Black Ops Cold War. As for mobile, base damage per shot is moderately high, killing in 4 shots in its first 2 ranges before dropping to 5 and 7 from afar. The fire rate is moderate at 698 rounds per minute, and the bullet speed is less than ideal at 450 meters per second. The time to kill is average, and has a base effective range of 30 meters depending on frame rounding. Beyond that, its slow damage and slow bullet speed makes it one of the slowest killing primaries. Headshots are 50% extra damage, and one can give you a 3-shot kill in its first range, and a 6-shot kill in its final range. The chest is 20% extra. The biceps are 10% extra. Neither are helpful, as forearms can block both in a head-on gunfight. The legs are 10% less damage, and aren't an issue except for its 3rd range, which demands that you land all upper body shots to maintain a 5-shot kill, and this can be difficult on a moving target. Moving on to barrels. Cavalry Lancer grants more range and damage to vehicles, but cripples your mobility. Compact reduces horizontal recoil, and increases the chest and forearm multipliers by 10%, thus giving you an easier 3-shot kill up close. However, this increases vertical recoil and limits your range. Ranger increases bullet speed and range, but hurts your strafing speed. Tactical increases your fire rate up to 719 rounds per minute, but cripples your range and bullet speed. Reinforce has the same fire rate boost as Tactical, and increases your range like the Ranger barrel, but hurts your mobility. And lastly, Extended increases your bullet speed by 33%, and fire rate up to 759 rounds per minute, thus giving you the fastest time to kill of these barrels. This does hurt your body multipliers, but less than you think. 3rd range's base time to kill becomes less consistent, otherwise it's an improvement all around. In terms of mobility, the base 80 speed is tied with the GCAS, QXR, and Striker 45 for the slowest SMG. The sprint out time is tied with the AMAX, Bison, QXR, Tech 9, MSMC, and pistols for the 2nd fastest in the game. Base movement speeds are slower than average amongst SMGs, and strafing is barely above average. When built for speed, the LAPA can match a similarly kitted MSMC, Pharaoh, Crossbow, and FFAR for the 15th fastest. When built for strafing, the LAPA becomes the 9th fastest. The base magazine size is the standard 30, and can be extended to 37, 40, 45, and 50, or reduced to 25 for a faster bullet speed. Reload times are fast, and you can reload cancel just before you insert the mag. As for accuracy, the Bloom is relatively average, but doesn't have attachments that help or harm it except for one beneficial laser. Luckily, the LAPA is tied with the M16 for the 2nd best initial bloom taper in the game, only behind the AK-47. The fire is also good with its consistent 4-shot kill up close. The iron sights aren't great, but are usable for close range, but I wouldn't trust it for farther engagements, especially with FOV synced. You used to be able to delete the model in favor of the default RUS, but this no longer appears to be the case. The recoil is fairly light, and when combined with its taper, it's one of the easiest automatics to burst fire with. When a LAPA was released in late 2022, it was good for its time due to its strafe speed and 3-shot potential. Its max sprint speed was even shadow nerfed from its test server counterpart. But it was somewhat overlooked by the Krig 6, which was released a season prior, the revival of the Fennec, and the CBR4 was still popular. Back then, it had pitiful bullet speed and low range. These would be buffed in early 2023. However, this was overshadowed when more flexible guns were added, such as the Warzone 1 fan favorites, the Grau and FFAR. 2023 was also a time of slow and steady buffs that compounded into renewed relevance of many old school classics. That's not to say that the LAPA was outclassed after its second range buff. It's quite underrated these days, compared to its SMG peers. First, we have the RUS, which has a faster fire rate, easier iron sight, faster movement unless you use the 50 round mag, more range attachments, and is hit scan. However, the LAPA has superior damage, body multipliers, quick reload cancels, and magazines that don't limit its movement. Both of their time to kills are similar. The LAPA is better at close range with its 3-shot potential, but the RUS should be better at long range despite its leg multipliers. With the PDW's nerfs a while back, it makes enemies flinch less and no longer has the edge in base strafing. However, being hit scan and arm multipliers makes it more usable at farther ranges. It has more ammo in base, and more range attachments. The LAPA has the advantage of a 3-shot potential, easier recoil, and faster reloads. A fellow flex SMG with a 3-shot potential would be the Razorback with rapid fire, and since my last video on it, now has faster movement. Compared to the others, the Razorback is better at being an AR, while the LAPA has faster potential movement for being an SMG. And lastly, the buff AGR in 5.56 is decent. However, the base version in 9mm doesn't have the same manageable recoil without the slower fire rate of 5.56, or worthwhile body multipliers while having low ammo capacity and a slow empty reload cancel. In conclusion, the LAPA has stronger potential up close than its peers, and reloads fast even with large mags, but isn't suitable to compete against ARs at range like the rest. Since it's already balanced, it doesn't need much else. The only suggestion I have is to slightly buff its third range damage to 21, thus making 5-shot kills less punishing to achieve, as you'll need 3 out of 5 instead of all 5 upper body shots. But hey, that's just my opinion. This has been a Casual's quick guide. Feel free to suggest what weapons you want to see covered next. My name is An, and I'm off.